Log date 7/15/2, or as Peridot would have you say it, 7/1/5/2. In some ways, this episode is exactly what a lot of people speculated that it would be, but in other ways, it was a lot more than that, and I'm really excited to talk about it. As usual, there will be spoilers for the episode in this review, so keep that in mind if you haven't seen it yet. This episode starts out with Peridot having some very obvious conflicts over her recent decision. She likes the idea that she's been rebellious and that she is a rebel and that she made her own choice, but at the same time, she's entirely stunned by what she's done. Even going so far as to call herself mad and giving the recorder that Steven gave her back to Steven, saying it was the origin of her madness and it only chronicles her descent into madness. It was actually a pretty funny scene to come off of what was a relatively heavy episode yesterday. And of all the gems to come in and talk to Peridot is actually Garnet, who comes in, calms her down, takes her away to talk to her about what's been going on. And we've gotten episodes at this point where Peridot has bonded with Pearl and bonded with Amethyst, and now finally we're going to get to see when it was, at what moment it was that she bonded with Garnet, because that has happened already, but we haven't seen it yet. And that's actually what Steven notices, so he actually goes back and listens to Peridot's logs to try to determine when it was that Peridot and Garnet reached a point where they were on good terms with each other. And one of the best things about this episode is, as we're going through her logs day by day, hearing her talk about what she's been going through, it makes her sudden turn to the side of the crystal gems at the end of the previous episode a lot more believable, because we get to see her coming around. We see her trying on clothes, we see her watching insects, we see her interacting with the other characters in one way or another, and we even hear her say that she appreciates the other characters in a couple of different instances. And it's during this sequence of random days, of random recounts of events that we haven't previously seen, that we get probably my favorite individual scene in the entire show so far. Steven shows Peridot. It's a Canadian television show about a summer camp, and she spends 3 days straight rewatching the same episode over and over again, learns to quote every single line in the episode, creates her own fan theories, and even starts shipping the characters. Guys, Peridot is a fan theorist. Peridot is a shipper. This is the greatest thing that has ever happened literally in all of time. And while it is possible that I'm exaggerating a bit, it was a pretty great scene and brought an entire new dimension to Peridot's character, one that made her really relatable to the fan base. And you see she brings in Steven and then Garnet and spends like what seems like hours explaining why her ship is the only ship that matters. And it was hilarious. But it also, surprisingly, because I thought it was just going to be a one-off gag, was actually really important to the episode. Because later on, you see Peridot and Pearl and Garnet and Amethyst are all hanging around out in front of the barn, and Pearl and Amethyst are working on the drill, because this is back before the drill was actually completed, and they need to move the entire drill at once, and so Peridot actually witnesses Pearl and Amethyst fuse into Opal so that they can move the drill, which first of all, yes, more Opal, please, but more importantly, this spurs her on to confront Garnet over her feelings about fusion. She says to Garnet, I understand fusion if you're using it to do something, to accomplish something, but you're not using your combined size and strength for anything. And Garnet says, I am. I'm stargazing. And Peridot says, but you could do that by yourself. And Garnet says, but I don't want to. And they have a little brief conversation about it. And Garnet offers to help Peridot understand fusion better by fusing with her. And they almost do. They reach a point where they would have fused if Peridot hadn't tripped and lost her grip on Garnet's hand. And then she says, I'm sorry, I can't do this. But Garnet is okay with that because Peridot at least made the attempt to understand her better. And when Peridot says, but I don't understand you better, Garnet compares herself to Peridot's ship, and Peridot gets it. And it was a beautiful moment. The voice acting was great, the animation was great, the atmosphere was great, and it makes Peridot's willingness to side with the crystal gems in the previous episode all the stronger, because she now understands where all of them are coming from. And you can see now, Garnet is going to be kind of the character, aside from Steven, when it's above and beyond things that Steven understands or can help with. Garnet's going to be the character that helps Peridot sort through emotional stuff and learn to develop emotionally, because you can see, as Steven has been listening to the logs, Garnet has been sitting with Peridot, helping her work through her feelings, and they come back and Peridot wants her recorder back because she, I don't think, completely has come to terms with everything that's happened to her, just the previous day based on the dates on the logs. But she's begun to, thanks to Garnet's help. Was this the strongest episode that could have been chosen to cap off the Stephen bomb? I don't think so. Not with The Answer starting it off. The Answer was a really strong episode that taught us a lot, but there were so many great character moments in this episode that I actually found myself enjoying this episode just as much as I enjoyed The Answer. Guys, Peridot has developed so much, and this episode just helps drive home exactly how much she has developed and how much more development we can expect from her going forward. This is a great character, and I am so glad that she has been added to the main cast so that we can see her development more closely going forward. And it certainly doesn't look like she's going anywhere anytime soon. But guys, what did you think of this episode, and what did you think of the 4th Stephen bomb now that it's over? What do you think of Peridot's character development up until this point? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. Either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.